Okay, today in geometry we're going over 3.3, which is prove lines are parallel. All right. This is going to be very closely related to yesterday's assignment. Okay, and in fact, if we look at what the difference is between them, yesterday, right? If we see that we had the blues were what we learned first, right? If we have lines are parallel, then what do I know about some of the angles? They're, congruent or the same. So this 42 could go here, right? Yeah. What are those two angles called? Corresponding, right? So yesterday we learned if it's parallel, then we know that the angles are the same. Okay? Now today we're going to say that backwards. Okay? So today the first thing we know is the two angles are the same. If the two angles are the same, what do we know about the lines? They're parallel, right? So that's what we're learning today, right? Which is exactly, almost the exact same thing. It's just solving it backwards, right? Okay. All right, so here we have a transversal cutting through two lines. Those two lines look like they could be parallel. Do we know that they're parallel? No. Not yet. It says what value of x would make it parallel? Okay? What value of x would make it parallel? Well, let's think. What do these two angles both have to be? 65. 65, right? They have to be the same. So I know that 65 has to be equal to 3x plus 5. Right? Because those two have to be equal to be parallel. Yes. Then what's my next step? All right? And then what was it? Oh, where are you at? There you, man, you sounded like you were coming from up there. My echolocation is off. I couldn't find you. All right, so we get x is 20. How, what value of x makes it parallel? 20. What if x was 21? Wouldn't be parallel. It'd look parallel, might be close to parallel, but it's not. All right. Yeah. Yeah, it's recording right now. Yeah. There usually is, but it's not right now. Okay. Now remember, what do we know about the angles, right? We cut into 8 angles for a transversal, right? What do you know about the big angles and the other big angles? Congruent. What about the small angles and the small angles? What about a small plus a big? Supplementary. Okay, good. Okay, now here I want to say, is there enough information to say that those are parallel or not? And we look at that problem there. Is there enough information? Let's see. Well, it looks like the 75 angle, that's supposed to be like a small. The 105 is supposed to be a big. And those two need to be what? 180, right? Supplementary. So I want to know, is 75 plus 105 equal to 180? Yeah. Right? And a little bit of addition will tell you that it is, right? 180 is the sum. 180 is equal to 180. Can we say that those are parallel? Yes, right? So now we say, yes, right? Those two are supplementary. What if we didn't know this one was 105? What if we knew this one was 105? Why a no? Jesse, why no? Because you don't know what the other measurement? Well, we didn't know last time. Gloria. So you're thinking yes because they still make 180? Okay. Darren, what do you think? Yes? You think they're corresponding angles? Corresponding would mean the same, yeah. Jose?
Well, since you took away a 105, you don't know if they're, you're asking if you know they're parallel
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't have to mean because like
You can leave. You can leave.
you know that's 180, but you can't know the other one's 180 because you don't have any measurements because they couldn't be parallel. Like
You might be on the right track, but let's ask somebody else. Gloria, what do you think now?
Okay, so isn't it correct? Like, okay, so if 105 was the thing on the bottom, and like, you know how like things across from it,
Mm-hmm.
it would be 105. So like the same thing.
But we don't know this is 105 anymore. This one's, shh, excuse me. That one's scribbled out, so we don't know that one.
Parallel, wouldn't the other things be the same thing?
We don't know the lines are parallel yet. Okay? Linker.
Since we concluded that the two angles, since they're alternate exterior, and since that the 105 and 75 added up to 180, then parallel, that means that that's top one's
But we don't know this one's 70 or 105 anymore. Right? That one's,
That's why it's scratched out.
yeah. Okay. The correct answer here is now, no, because are we comparing one group of angles to the other group of angles? You have to compare one group to the other group to say if they're parallel or not. Okay? If you just are talking about those two, yeah, these two are always going to be supplementary. But what if now I move my line? Is that blue line and the top line parallel? Obviously they're not. But this can still be 75, and this can still be 105, right? We have to match one from the top to the bottom in order for us to say if they're parallel or not. All right, so here there's a picture of a rattlesnake. What they want to know is, can we tell that the sides of the pattern are parallel in the photo? All right. Now, if we look here, I'll highlight it with my. Hey, what did we just make right there? A transversal, right? And then they give me these little quarter circles. What do those mean? They're congruent, right? They're the same. Are those blue lines parallel? Okay, now, we can only have one person talk at a time, okay? I can't have people just yelling what they think's right over and over and again. Okay, it gets too loud in here. We have a problem being loud to begin with. All right, so I'm hearing some no's, and I'm hearing some yeses, okay? So who wants to give me an argument for no? It doesn't show the triangle, so you don't know it's parallel. All right, so they didn't tell us explicitly that they're parallel, okay? You want to try?
oh, for no, I just don't like it.
You just got never.
I just realized.
Okay. All right, so who wants to argue for yes? Jesse.
Because since they're like those two angles are the same,
So,
the other two have to be the same.
so you're looking at that one and that one, okay?
Yeah, they have to be the same because they're making 180. So they can compare them.
So then you think that, are you saying that this one and this one have to be the same?
Yeah.
That's right. Okay. Does that tell us that it's parallel or not?
Yeah. If
Now remember, to tell if the lines are parallel, we have to compare one angle from a top group and one from the bottom group, right? Do we have that here? And then we need to know, are they going to be the same or supplementary? Does that happen here? Right? Is this angle here with the arrow or the same as this one here with the arrow? So then they are parallel. And that's all you need to know. Okay? Now, what type of angles are those two right here? If I name this one 1 and this one 2, what type of angles are 1 and 2? Alternate interior angles. So this would be parallel. And then I'd say by alternate interior angles. Okay, what's your thought?
even though we know that if one angle on this side would be the same on this side, that still doesn't, I don't think that really makes it parallel. Because like, if they were the same angle for like, you know, the one that goes like right there has the same angle for the ones that come up here.
So I think what you're talking about is if we have one kind of like this, and we say that one and that one are the same, right? Okay, now that's true, but do those two same angles follow the pattern of what we learned yesterday? Remember the pattern that we learned yesterday was that this one, this one, this one, and this one would be the same. So as long as it's in that pattern, we're okay, right? So we need to match one from the top to the bottom in that pattern, right? But you're right in saying that you can have some that make like an A kinda, and it wouldn't be parallel. All right? All right. Here we have, a proof. So we have two lines that are cut by a transverse, so the alternate interior angles are congruent. All right? Then the lines are parallel, right? So we want to give a proof here to prove that G is parallel to H. All right? So let me get a little bit of space here. All right, so when I start off with these proofs, remember I'm going to write what I know and how. What is always the first thing you write down for what you know? What's given. Okay, your how is always going to be your given, right? What did they tell us? Okay? Yeah. Angle 4 congruent to angle 5. All right? Sometimes they're only going to give you one thing. Sometimes they might give you 2 or 3. But you need to write those all down at the beginning. So if I know angle 4 is equal to angle 5, and I want to say that these two lines are parallel, I need to work back towards that first piece of information we learned yesterday. What was that first thing we learned yesterday? What pair of angles? Corresponding, right? That's the first one we learned. So we want to work back to that corresponding. So how can I use corresponding in this diagram? One and 5 are corresponding, right? So if only I could prove that 1 is the same as 4. Could I do that? All right, so let's say we're going to try to say angle 1 is congruent to angle 4. How do we know 1's congruent to angle 4? No. What are those words that we know? Huh? Do you know it?
Because it's vertical. The thing is the same as it's small.
Vertical, right? Whenever we have an X made, right, the ones across from each other are going to be the same, right? So if we look at 1 and 4, they're across from each other on an X. They're called vertical angles, so we know they're the same. Now, since I have 1 linked to 4, I want to link 1 to 5, and then I got it, right? How do I know 1 and 5 are the same? Okay, so 1 is congruent to angle 4, which is congruent to angle 5. All right, so then we know angle 1 is congruent to angle 5. And then I could say, what was the name of those lines? G and H. And I could say G is parallel to H. Why is G parallel to H? We're going to say corresponding. Okay? Now, these ones here, where we're doing kind of like more math stuff, right? When we do those two, right? It's basically saying what things are equal and everything. Those ones, the technical words for them you're going to be using are like reflexive, symmetric, and transitive, okay? That's if you're going to be doing an official proof and everything. For me, I'm okay with you guys just writing down the math stuff, okay? If you get into college and you take some higher level math courses, you might have to do some reflexive, but they'll kind of tell you what that means then, all right? So right now I'm okay with just giving those important pieces there, okay? All right, so on this one, right, we have RS. We want to prove that P is parallel to Q, okay? So what's the first thing I'm going to write down? Yeah. So the first thing I'm going to write down is given. What did they tell me? So angle 1 Angle 3, okay.
Angle 3.
RS are parallel.
Yeah, he didn't read it at the time.
R and S are parallel, right? And that's given. All right, this one they gave us more than one thing. All right, they gave us 2. Now we want to try to prove that P is parallel to Q. All right, so how are we going to do that? Well, if I want P and Q to be parallel to each other, right, I'm going to need to prove what? Well, 2 and 1, if I look at 2 and 1, right, I'm looking at this line and those 2 lines, right? That would prove that which 2 lines are parallel. That was R and S, right? We already know R and S. We want P and Q. So those ones aren't going to work for us looking at it that way. We want P and Q to be seen. What other line am I going to have to use as a transversal? R, because it's got the numbers on it, right? It's got the angles on it. So I'm going to be looking at those blue ones that I highlighted. Now, I told you guys, maybe it was yesterday, that sometimes the hardest part is just breaking it down into a simpler figure, right? Because here we get to ignore line S for part of this, right? So if we ignore line S, it makes it easier. All right, so to prove that these 2 lines are parallel and I'm only looking at the blue ones, what 2 angles am I going to have to prove that are the same? 3 and 2, right? Because those are the ones there. Those would be alternate interior. How can I prove that 3 is equal to 2?
If 3 is equal to 1,
So right now we say that 3 is equal to 1, okay?
and since R and S are parallel,
Uh-huh.
and 2 is on the same parallel, or the same line as 1 is, then should 2 and 1 be
And what type of angles are 2 and 1?
corresponding?
Corresponding, okay? That's the proof. Now we need to get it down, okay? Now, what Jose said is, I know 3 is congruent to 1. I know that, okay? It'd be nice if I knew 3 was congruent to 2. So I'm going to do this the long way, okay? So I'm going to say angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. How do I know that? Do I need to take that distraction away from you guys? Okay, thank you. Because they're corresponding to parallel lines, right? Oops. There we go. I don't know why I was making it to you. All right, so 1's equal to 2, and 1's equal to 3. All right, so now I can say angle 1 is congruent to angle 2, which is congruent to angle 3. And then if we just drop the 1, right, because angle 2 is equal to angle 3. All right, so if angle 2 is equal to angle 3, then I know that P and Q are parallel. Why? They're alternate interior angles. All right, now, these proofs, they're going to be a pain for us for a while, right? We're going to have to get used to doing them, right? Because you will be expected to do them as we move on through the chapters. Sorry. Okay, now moving on to our last one, which is example. No, I don't think it's our last one. I think we have one more after this. So here we have the United States flag, which has 13 alternating red and white stripes. Each stripe is parallel to the stripe immediately below it. Explain why the top stripe is parallel to the bottom stripe. Okay. Now, does that make sense to us that the top should be parallel to the bottom?
Yes.
So it's saying that stripe 1 here, can't really see that, there we go. Stripe 1 is parallel to which stripe?
Stripe 2,
The one right below it. Stripe 2 is parallel to
stripe 3.
3 is parallel to 4 is parallel to 6, 7, 8, all the way down to 13, right? This is what's called the transitive property. Right. Transitive property basically just means that you can transfer equal signs or parallels through 13 stripes. Okay, so if I say, stripe 1 is parallel to stripe 2, and stripe 2 is parallel to stripe 3, the transitive property says I can translate all the way from 1 to 3, and I could say stripe 1 is parallel to stripe 3. Okay. The reason why we have this one is so we can talk about the transitive property of saying that, we get pretty much it cuts out the middleman, which what I've done so far is just stripe 2, but this whole flag we're cutting out the middleman of stripe 2 through 12, right? To prove the top and bottom one are parallel. Oh no, that was the last one. All right, so on 165, that's our assignment. We have about a half hour to work.